Portrait of a Lady, which is written by Khushwant Singh. So till now you must have known about how Khushwant Singh describes his grandmother to be, and his grandfather too, a brief description of his grandfather, how he considered his grandmother to be beautiful but not pretty, and how he could not imagine his grandmother to be ever young and to be a wife of someone. So here we'll further see about how he describes the stay or his life with his grandmother again. We have already known about how his parents were not there with him. They were there in the city and he was back in the village with his grandmother, spending his school time and all the day-to-day activities that he had done with his grandmother. Moving on to the text, let's see. Unit 3, Warm Up. Life in the village is quite different from city life. Family relationship also changes. Identities are modified. There is a turning point in relationships. Read the following unit of the text and note how a turning point occurs in the writer's relationship with his grandmother. See, nothing is stable in this world. Change is inevitable. So is the behavior with the grandparents too. So his tally or his complacency with his grandmother, that also changes after a while. So here the village life and the city life, the differences, he could feel them. And also the relationship in the family, that also changes. He could feel them too. So here we'll see about how things change with his grandmother. The text. Here he says, when my parents were comfortably settled in the city, they sent for us. That was a turning point in our friendship. Although we shared the same room, my grandmother no longer came to school with me. I used to go to an English school in a motor bus. There were no dogs in the streets, and she took to feeding sparrows in the courtyard of our city house. So we'll see how he had moved back to the city to his parents, and it was the turning point of his friendship with his grandmother. They shared the same room, but she no longer would give him company to his school. He started going to an English medium school, and a motor bus would come to pick him and drop him in the school and back in home. So, and also there were no dogs in the streets whom the grandmother would feed as she would do in the village. So rather, she started feeding the sparrows in the veranda of their house. So this change they had to go through, they had to get accustomed to it. So the relationship also amongst the parents and the grandparents, or the grandmother here and the child, it took a turn, and he could feel it. He used to go to an English school, and because it was far by, he could not have the company of his grandmother hereby. So these changes, they were remarkable in his life. So that is why he mentioned them in this autobiography, or you can say biography of his grandmother. They had, because the grandmother, she was not able to help further in the studies that he had been acquiring now, because she did not know the language, she did not know about anything other than the religious scriptures about God. This made her sad. She did not approve of such an education, and when she came to know about further things which we'll later on learn in this chapter, we'll see how disturbed she became. She had the habit of asking whatever he learnt in the school the same day, and the scientific terminologies, the English words, they made her unhappy. Why? Because she could not cope up with that, and she had the feeling that she was growing a kind of not so helpful for the boy, and she was aware of this, being helpless in this situation. So this made her unhappy further. The change made her unhappy. The elderly people, they always seek pleasure when the younger ones, they give them attention or they look up to them for any seeking of any knowledge. But when they are at nothing, or to nothing to provide, or nothing to give a solution, or nothing to give an idea to, they become unhappy because of their unhelpfulness at that time, which is a helpless situation for them. She did not believe in the things they taught at the English school and was distressed that there was no teaching about God and the scriptures. One day I announced that we were given music lessons. She was very disturbed. To her, music had lewd associations. It was the monopoly of harlots and beggars and not meant for gentle folk. She said nothing, but her silence meant disapproval. This made the grandmother angry and also disappointed at the same time. Now, she rarely talked to me after that. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda, breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirrupings. Some came and perched on her legs, others on her shoulders. Some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. So we had already come across the disapproval of the grandmother regarding the education Khushwant Singh was getting in his school, about how he was not taught regarding God and the scriptures, that is the sacred books. And one day, after being known or after learning about music lessons being given to her grandson, she was further disturbed. According to her, music was indecent and it was an art for the beggars and prostitutes and not for those belonging to distant families. She didn't like that he learned music, so she stopped talking. You know that silence has been louder, or silence is louder than the real words used. So she chose silence, and that spoke louder that no, she disapproves this idea of completely leaving God and the sacred books and all the teachings of the sacred books and depend or learn music. So this thing was made known to Khushwant by the dislocation or the disconnection with his grandmother. Now when he went to the university, he could see further changes. He had a room of his own. Now the common link of his friendship and his grandmother was they had always shared the same room in the village and also till this time. So he had changed now, the things had changed now, and also the friendship has got ended now. She became more private and spent her whole day spinning wheel. And from sunrise to sunset, she would sit and silently recite her prayers and spin the wheel. And half an hour time which she would get in the afternoon, she used to feed the sparrows in the veranda. Breaking the bread into small pieces, she would feed hundreds of birds. She was the happiest when this things or this experience she had been going through. Why? Because she felt that she was wanted, and she was nearer to God by being nearer to the birds or the creations of God by feeding them. The thing she would do when she was in the village, she used to feed dogs, and now she is feeding the small sparrows. These birds would gather around her, some sat near her, some on her legs, some on her shoulders, and some on her head. But she never drove them away, and she kept smiling throughout. And she considered to be the happiest moment or moments in her life. The experience was good for her or the happiest for her. This half an hour time during the whole day. Unit 4, Warm Up. You are already acquainted with the first three phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother. In the first phase, the grandmother looked after the author in the village, and he was physically very close to her. In the second phase, he was estranged from her when he went to city school. In the third phase, the common link of friendship between them snapped when he went to university. Finally, when he went abroad for further studies, the last sign of physical contact between them was lost. Read the concluding part of the text and note how the final curtain falls in the grandmother's life. So, the three phases we had already learned about how in the village he was physically very nearer to the lady. They shared everything, and how the grandmother took care of the child, that is the author Khushwant Singh. Then in the second phase, how they moved back to the city life, and in the city life, how because he was learning lessons about English, about music, and further things, he was becoming distant from from his grandmother or from her. And this made changes in their lives. And in the third phase, we could see when he went to the university, he had a room of his own. Before that, in the two phases, he shared a room with his grandmother, but in the third phase, where he went to the university, he had a room of his own. So this physical nearness was also distanted again or distanced again. So this gap which was created, it was made further apart when finally he had the chance of going abroad for further studies. Now we'll learn about his going abroad for further studies in this chapter. Now the last sign of physical contact between them was lost. Yes, they no more shared the same house. Now we'll read the concluding part of the text and how the final curtain falls in his grandmother's life. The text. Here Khushwant Singh speaks. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age, one could never tell. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station, but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the bits of her rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayer. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer, and with frivolous rebukes. When the author decided to go abroad for further studies, he believed that it would be the last time he would see his grandmother, and he would be gone for 5 long years. And as they reached the railway station, she held him tightly and kissed his forehead. And he knew that it was the last physical contact with her. The wet impression of her hand was dear to him. She was not sentimental or being emotional at that time, which was strange for him. And it was good that he came back after 5 years and she was still there. She looked just the way she did 5 years ago, not a day older. She held him again in her arms and was still reciting her prayers, the thing which she did when Khushwant Singh was about to leave for abroad. He noticed on the first day of his arrival that only sparrows would make her happy. And this time she would spend more time on that, feeding of the sparrows and with frivolous rebukes, like uttering rebukes or scolding the birds. So this was a change that he could see. A change that is feeding the sparrow for a longer time and the only thing that made her happy. In the evening a change came over her. She did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum and started to sing. For several hours she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang of the homecoming of warriors. We had to persuade her to stop avoiding overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. The next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. She told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. So one fine evening, the writer or the author and his parents, they could witness something strange. And the strange thing was that the grandmother, she had stopped the routine of her prayers. She collected a few women from the neighborhood and got a drum and started singing with them. She thumped the ruined part of the drum and sang along. The whole family, that is the writer and his parents, they persuaded her to stop as she might fall ill due to tiredness or exhaustion from the things which she was doing. The next morning she definitely fell ill and it was a mild fever and the doctors they told them that it would go away soon, but she took it differently. See, our elderly people, they tend to know things. They tend to say that no, they have been talking to God or they have seen visions about future. So they know when they are about to fall ill or when they are about to be near to God. Here, she also felt the same way. According to her, she would die soon, and as her end was near, she would prefer her time in spending in talking to the family members rather than wasting her last hours chanting the prayers. So she did that. She wanted to cherish those moments. She wanted to make a mark on the family before leaving. And this made her even forget her prayers. We protested, but she ignored our protests. She lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face and we knew that she was dead. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. After a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. So the old lady, she could know that yes, her end was near. So whatever she did, she was trying to express that no, she loved them and she wanted to spend her last times or last moments with the family, and that happened. The family, they had tried to protest with the things which were going on, that everything is going to be okay. They wanted to give solace to the lady, but she ignored everything. She lay peacefully in bed, telling her beads, counting or reciting the rosaries, telling her prayers. And then, before they could suspect that no, anything wrong is going to happen, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers, and there was a pale face of her which depicted the death of the lady. They could come to know that she was dead by the pale face, the pale appearance on the face of the grandmother. They lifted her from the bed and laid her on the ground, which is a ritual, and they wrapped her with a red-colored cloth. Thousands of sparrows sat silently near her. And about these sparrows, we'll come to know in the next slide how the traditional religious structure was being followed. The customs were being followed. She was covered with a red cloth, and then the funeral arrangements were going on. Obviously, the writer was broken because he had lost a best friend. So we'll know about this in the further chapter. Moving further, we'll see. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff, wrapped in the red shroud. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirruping. We felt sorry for the birds, and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. The sparrow took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. See, the creation of God. The creation are as happy and as pure as the Creator. We are also born pure, but we are corrupted with the materialistic ways of the world. But the animals, the birds, the insects and all, they are not that corrupted. So the sparrows, they try to show their love for the old lady, for the dead old lady. These thousands of sparrows sat silently near her. The author's mother fetched some bread or breadcrumbs for the birds, but they did not eat any because they too were mourning for the dead. They flew away later as the family carried the dead body. The breadcrumbs were left so till the next morning too. The birds were so sensitive that they did not touch the crumbs even in the next morning. The sweeper the next morning had to remove the crumbs. They did not want to eat bread but were mourning the death of the one who had fed them for so many days. So here we'll see how wonderful creation is, how understanding the creation is. The creatures made by God are. They could understand. Now, every one of us or those people who own a pet, they would be knowing the attachment, the emotional attachment they have got with their pets. The pets, they understand you emotionally. The physical expressions which you give to, they understand that too. And with the passing by or the passing away of a loved one, they mourn your death too. They mourn a loss too. So here it was seen by the sparrows too. The action of the sparrows made it obvious to the parents and also the writer that they were mourning over the death of the person who was instrumental in feeding them for these many days. So what we came to know about by the description of the writer Khushwant Singh about his grandmother was that she was a strong person in character. She had her own opinion about schools and their teachings. She considered learning scriptures or the traditional and religious views of a religion to be far better than studying science or English or music even. Coming to music, she did not like music, as according to her, music was for low level people, for the harlots and the people who wanted to feed their tummy by singing off. When the author went to the university in seclusion, she would spin the wheel and chant prayers and tell beads and feed breadcrumbs to the sparrows. This was a pastime for the lady. She wanted to feel wanted, and she was wanted for the sparrows to feed them. When she sang the homecoming of the warriors for hours and did not stop even when her family tried for a long time, this shows how strong-headed she was. And during her last time, she started singing the homecoming of the warriors. So what a great way of passing away. Now, during her last time, she even did not want to waste any time talking to anyone, so that she would lay silently on her bed and chanted her prayers till she died. First of all, she stopped saying her prayers, and then she tried to interact with everyone, and then she lay down on her bed, and then she started telling her beads again. And when she stopped, they could know that no, she is no more. So from this chapter, you have learnt about the happenings in the life of Khushwant Singh, and mostly with his grandmother, the time which he spent with his grandmother. So it's your job now to write down the question and answers of Unit 3 and Unit 4 of the present chapter in your notes. And so have a good day and take care.